When an ant can earn its living, this big brain, should it struggle to earn a living? That has become a problem because you want to be like somebody else, isn't it? You want to be like somebody else, that enslaves you. And once you're into this chakra, nothing else is possible, it just keeps you going and going and going endlessly. Before you realize what's happening, people will come back from your funeral, wash their hands and they'll turn on the TV and forget about you. Yes. You think just because you die, nobody will turn on the television that day? Yesterday, I was in Hyderabad and somebody asked, one thing he wants to know is, when he dies, he would like to look back and see if people are really crying or not. He wants to check at least if his wife will cry for him. I said, you don't have to wait till you die. If you just look around right now, you will know. It all depends how you're living, whether people will cry for you or they'll celebrate because you're gone. Yes. Do you have to wait till you die? Right now, if you look around carefully, you will know whether they'll see your departure as liberation. It doesn't take much. Now this possibility of this simple thing called yoga is not about twisting your body, it's not about getting fit, it's not about getting healthy. All these things nature will do for you, if only if you live in tune with it. Once you walk the spiritual path, this question and this struggle of how much of spiritual process should I do and how much of whatever is called as life I should do. And for most people the struggle is when they're involved in their day-to-day materialistic functions of life, they will long for the spiritual process. If you give them a spiritual process, they will long to go back to their materialistic way of life. So how much of what or how should I do these two things? You should do your materialistic life. When we say materialistic, that which concerns and satisfies one's physical body and one's mind is materialistic life. It's not right to divide this, but anyway, invariably people divide it. So that which satisfies your body and your mind, how much of it you should do or how you should do means you must do it like you are going to live forever. How much or how I should do my spiritual process, you must do it like today is your last day. Which way is it? Now, on a certain day, a hunter caught a little bird, a tiny little bird. And he was about to take its life. Then the little bird said,
You have caught and eaten many far bigger animals in your life, but it has not satisfied your hunger. Me, a little bird, this much I am. What can I do for you? So why kill me? If you allow me to live, I'll give you three invaluable teachings with which your life will be phenomenally rich. One teaching I will give you when I'm still in your hand. The second teaching I will give you when I sit upon the roof of your house. The third teaching I'll give you when I sit on top of the tree. Then the hunter thought about it, looked at this little bird. It doesn't even work as an appetizer, too small. So he said, okay, give me the teaching. The first teaching that the bird gave is, it does not matter who, whatever pronouncements they make, don't ever believe it. Took off from his hand, went and sat on top of the roof. And then he said, you fool, you let me go. Do you know who I am? Within my belly, I have a diamond which weighs 5 ounces. Then the man started wailing about his misfortune. Oh, such a huge diamond, I let it go. What a fool I am. Then the bird said, you are definitely a fool. I already told you, never believe any pronouncements made by anybody, whoever they may be. See, I weigh just 2 ounces. How can I have a diamond 5 ounces in my belly, you fool? So the second teaching is, never look back and regret at anything that is past. And then flew and went and sat on top of the bird. The man started screaming and wailing, no, I missed the diamond, now you're telling me not to regret, you fooled me. And the bird went and sat there and waited. Then he recovered, okay, never regret for what has happened. Okay, tell me what's the third teaching? The bird said, anyway, you did not listen to the first two. What is the use of the third? Never waste your energies and wisdom upon those who don't listen. That's the third teaching, and flew away. Now, whatever I say, it's not going to work. Now, your materialistic life, you must live it as if you're going to die today. Your spiritual life, you must do it that you are eternal, not the other way around. Don't say this to everything. No, Sadhguru, whatever you say, that's not true. If that is really true, that you have become like this, that there is no value for reason in your life. You have become a devotee and there is no value for reason. Then all these teachings no good, don't bother, just… You know, when we were doing the wholeness program, the 90-day program, this is a place where we went about exploring and revealing various aspects of life which they had never thought was possible. As we went by, every time I ask a question and ask yes or no. After some time, some of them at least, their logic was completely defeated. They said, there's no point, Sadhguru, we're saying yes, no, no good. We're yes and yes. When I came one day, they had written on a big board, Sadhguru, yes and yes. So if you have realized there's no value for your logic, then, yeah, everything doesn't matter. You don't even have to do this. You don't even have to say yes. But when you still live by logic, whatever is said by whoever, you have to put it to the test of your logic. Because if you do not do that, your logic will not evolve. Logic is a horrible thing if it is in a rudimentary condition. If you refine your logic, it can be the way to your liberation. It can be a stepping stone to your liberation if you refine it. If it's in a rudimentary condition, it is a horrible thing. It blocks you from everything, it makes you suspicious about everything. It will not let you experience anything. So, you've not given up your logic, have you? You're not listening, that's why. If you live your materialistic life like you're going to live forever, what will you do? You will buy 1,673 pairs of shoes. I went to somebody's house in the United States and I was sitting in their house and then I needed to use the bathroom. So I went and opened the door thinking that is the bathroom. I opened, it was a large room about, let's say, one segment of this hall like this. And it was full of shoes. Hundreds of pairs of shoes. I looked, are they in some kind of shoe business? Then I came out and the lady of the house was trying to guide me to the bathroom. Then I asked, what are all those shoes? She said, oh, no. Not 2 dozens, hundreds of shoes. No. I'm buying shoes for 12 lifetimes I've bought and kept, just in case when I come back. If the shoe price is high in my next life, I've already bought them and kept. So you don't live your materialistic life like you're going to live forever. You live your materialistic life like today is the last day. You live your spiritual life like you're eternal. So without listening, without applying your logic, don't say yes, unless you become just yes and yes.
The nature of resource is such that if you pick up a resource, we already know its qualities. We know what it can do, what it cannot do. So when you get a human being in your hands, if you think this is a resource, you will never unfold the genius of that human being. If you want to handle human beings, first of all, you must understand you can get the best out of this human being only when they're in a pleasant state of experience.
The myth is that empowerment is all about giving. It's also about taking. It's not just about giving. So we have to see, like the Sadhguru said, there is a possibility in every individual. Are we ensuring that possibility is also understood by that person? And he or she is ready and willing to take the empowerment that we want to give him or her.
Bala, you worked with startups, you worked with the big companies. If you were to go back today, what is one unique thing that you would give back and change?
I don't think I'll go back to campuses, IIMs. I think There's innate potential that a common man has. I will tell them, don't have a single educational qualification driven hiring process. So there's a lot of in-house grooming that's possible.
If we have realized or if we have taken up something because we realize this is the most significant thing I can do right now, then everything that you are will come out, and that's all a human being can do. That at every moment of your life, you are at the best that you can do. If you set up such an atmosphere where everybody is doing their best, you will not need any management, it will simply happen the best. But for this, the people who lead have to set that example, set that atmosphere, set that level of inspiration, above all, set an atmosphere of love and joy.
The beauty of motherhood is not in reproduction. The beauty of motherhood is in inclusion, yes? It's not because your mother reproduced you, that's not why a mother is precious. Because in many ways, she saw you as a part of herself. It's because of that. Suppose your mother delivered you and never bothered about you, she will be your worst enemy, isn't it? The willingness to include another life as a part of yourself. It is that beauty we are trying to celebrate with the Mother's Day.
Our mother, because physically she delivered this child, she experiences the child as a part of herself. It gives her the ability to place the child's well-being above her own well-being. It comes easily to her, it can come to anybody. So you can place other people's well-being above your well-being in so many ways. But nature itself is assisting her to experience life that way, which is wonderful. Your motherhood is about how you feel. It's a question of embracing what's around you. You have a need to embrace someone as a part of yourself. What's stopping you? I'll give you the whole world embrace. You can live here like a mother to the world. What is stopping you? Just look upon everybody like that.
In yoga, the symbolism always is about showing the Adiyogi or the Shiva always as half man and half woman. The idea is to remind everyone that this is the nature of your existence. So to bring this balance between masculine and feminine is the true empowerment of humanity. If feminine has to find the right place in the world, we need to create a balanced society where finer aspects of life are as important as survival. If in our education systems, music, art, aesthetics become as important as science, mathematics and technology, only then feminine will find expression in a society. It is time to turn this around. So we've come to a place where technology has created a physical space where men and women can participate in equal measure. In many ways, everywhere in the world, economy is going to be the main factor in people's lives. It's very important that the women of the world participate in this process to create a gentler economy, an economy which is not brutal. It is very important in business leadership, in the boardrooms of this nation and in the world. There should be women who are feminine, not women who are trying to act more masculine than men. Women who genuinely have something feminine alive in them, and also men who are not ashamed of being feminine when they need to be. This balance has to be brought forth in a society. It is only in this balance there is empowerment. What you call as a flower is a fragile expression of a sturdier plant, but without the flower, the plant would mean nothing. So what we call as feminine is a more fragile expression of who we are, but without it, we would be nothing.
JP Melch, I'm an MPA student at the NYU School of Public Policy. You emphasized in your presentation the need to be at peace with ourselves or being relatively happy. However, do we not need to be sometimes angry or sometimes uncomfortable with our surroundings in order to have the drive to change the things that we want to change?
I did not say you should be at peace with yourself or you should be happy. I'm just asking, what's your choice? What is your choice for yourself? Pleasantness or unpleasantness? Yes, what's your choice? What is your choice for yourself? Pleasantness or unpleasantness? Pleasantness, isn't it? So that is not my choice. If you like unpleasantness, do it. I have no problem. But if you want pleasantness and you're creating unpleasantness, obviously you're not going where you want to go, isn't it? So I am not advising people, be peaceful, be joyful. It's their choice. If somebody enjoys misery, what's my problem? Yes, I really have no problem. But there is no such thing. Everybody wants pleasantness in his life, isn't it so? You want nice pleasantness inside and pleasantness outside, that's what you want, isn't it? Whatever you may be seeking, see, please understand this. Whether you go to the temple, whether you go to the bar, or you go to the office, or you want to go to heaven, you're still seeking pleasantness, isn't it so? Yes or no? Somebody thinks it's in success, somebody thinks it is in the bottle, somebody thinks it's in heaven, somebody thinks it's in the temple, but everybody is in search of pleasantness, is that so? Is that so? So if pleasantness is what you're seeking and if you're creating the reverse of that, you cannot say you're successful. Yes? If pleasantness is what you're seeking and you're achieving the reverse of that, could you say you're successful? If unpleasantness is what you're seeking, that's fine with me, you are successful. So this is not my idea, please get that out of your mind. This is not my idea that you must be happy, I have no such intentions. My intention is just this, let whatever you want happen to you. What you want should happen, isn't it? If you like misery and I impose happiness on you, is it going to be good? It's not going to be good, isn't it? So this is your choice. So if your choice is pleasantness, why is it not happening? That's a question. Now, unless you're angry, you cannot propel yourself into action. Unfortunately, this is true with a lot of people, that unless they're angry, they cannot propel themselves into action. You heard of Che Guevara? You heard of Che? You must be seeing those t-shirts. Everybody is wearing Che Guevara's t-shirts. Most of the young people don't know who he is. They think he's a rock star. Many times I stop them and ask, do you know who this guy is? They said, we don't know. Then why are you wearing? He's Che. And Che said, if you are in rage, you're one of us. So this impressed me, because wherever I saw injustice, wherever I saw something not going okay, I was also in a rage about everything. Then it took a certain amount of experience and inner exploration for me to see and get out of that rage. Now you can propel yourself with rage. You can also propel yourself with your joy, with your love, with your compassion, which will be more saner way of doing things. When you propel yourself with rage, you will cause one injustice for another injustice that's been happening till now. But if you propel yourself with compassion, you will do just what is needed, nothing more, nothing less. See, I don't even want to impose joy upon you. I want what you want to happen. Yes, this is how it should be, isn't it? Because I am not propelled by my rage, I am completely out of rage. Nothing puts me in rage anymore. It's not that I am oblivious to the nonsense that's happening on the planet. I am very, very aware of it. I am very, very involved in seeing and finding solutions. So these are the two ways. Do you want to drive yourself consciously or unconsciously? This is the question. Whenever you are in rage, whenever you are angry, are you conscious or unconscious? You're definitely unconscious, isn't it? And when you become angry, generally you suffer more than your victim most of the time. Yes or no? So in that kind of condition, what are you going to create? Once in a way corrective measures may happen because somebody is angry, but that is not the way to do things. In a balanced, sane way, you can correct things, isn't it? The reason why the first injustices happen also is because somebody is in rage and you're trying to correct it with another rage. Let's say a crime happens on the street. Out of greed or anger, a crime happens. Now you get angry and try to correct it. You are also committing another crime, probably a larger one usually. You can correct that out of simple, sheer sense, out of your humanity. Just now, like about 6 days ago, I was speaking to a group of people and they introduced me as humanitarian. I said, what's this? I have heard of vegetarians, non-vegetarians, and what is this humanitarian, what are you trying to say? No, you're doing a lot of humane activity. I said, it's a shame that we have to teach human beings to be human. Isn't it so? We're making an effort to teach human beings to be human as if they were some monkeys. If you try to teach a monkey to do what a human being can do, that's an achievement. You teach a human being to be like a human being, this is not an achievement. But right now in this world it looks that way because a lot of people have taken on different positions. Because they have become Indians, they have become Pakistanis, they have become Singaporeans, they have become Hindus, they have become Muslims. You have to look for a human being, where are they? Very hard to find them. If you just sat here as a human being, to resonate with other life around you would be very, very natural. If you get identified with something that you're not, then it all gets narrowed down. Some things will happen, yes, you can fight a war, you can do certain things forcefully, yes. But if you want true well-being in the world, first thing is you have to resonate here as life, because you are life, isn't it? I don't have to teach you that you are life. You are life. If you resonate and throb as life, you will know how to be a wonderful piece of life, which you are. But right now, we are trying to find patchy ways of doing things simply because somebody did something in anger and it worked at a certain time. That doesn't mean that's the way to correct everything, isn't it so? It's unfortunate if a human being cannot be propelled into action out of his love, out of his joy, out of his compassion. You tell me one thing, on a certain day you're unhappy and angry, on another day you're very happy. Which day are you willing to be more active? When you're joyful, you're ready for endless amount of activity, isn't it so?
My name is Ram Gupta. Sadhguru, my question is, intellectually and logically we understand, but practically we find lot of gaps. Can we get some tips from your inner engineering on how to go about it?
On a certain day, this happened in Michigan. An old-timer decided to go ice fishing. This is one of the things in Michigan because almost 5 months it is snowing and the Great Lakes freeze and people go sit on it, cut a hole and fish because there's still water beneath the ice sheet. So an old-timer went fishing. When you go fishing, it's not solely about fish. So he took a can of beer, sat there. The cans got empty. Through the day, he went and sat at 9 and 10 in the morning. So almost 4 o'clock, the crate got empty. He was a little dizzy, but no fish in the basket. Then at 4 in the evening, a boy from the downtown area with a big boombox on his shoulders with blaring rap music. Came driving like that. Came, sat close by, cut a hole and sat down, fishing. The whole time I looked at him. No fool like a young fool. I'm sitting here for the whole day, quietly fishing, not a single fish. The fool comes in the evening, the sun is about to set, and with this blaring music, is he going to catch fish? No fool like a young fool. You know, the young people think the other way around, but then, within 10 minutes, to his amazement, the boy caught a big trout. He looked, then he dismissed, okay, flashing the pen, nonsense, and he focused on his fishing. In another 10 minutes, the boy landed one more trout. Now he couldn't ignore him. He sat there watching the boy. The boy was listening to blaring music, jiving, and like this. And another 10 minutes, he caught one more trout. Now he couldn't ignore this anymore. He kept his pride aside, slowly walked up to the boy and asked, see, I've been sitting here since morning. I haven't landed a single fish. You just came, in 30 minutes you got 3. What is the secret? The boy turned down the music a bit and said, "Ru-ra-ra-ra, ru-ra-ra-ruff." He said, what? The boy again repeated, "Ru-ra-ra-ra, ru-ra-ra-ruff." He said, I don't understand. He said, wait. And then he spat out a blob of something into his hands and said, you have to keep the worms warm. Unless you do the right things will not happen to you. So, because the technology is subjective, it's about you. See, if it was about something else, I would have written a book and given it to you. Because this is about you. You are the object and you are the subject. So here, it needs a different level of focus. Right now, your whole focus is outward in the sense, right now the way you perceive life is through 5 sense organs. Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. This is the way you know life, isn't it so? If these 5 faculties shut down, you will have no experience of life. For example, right now if you dozed off a bit, that's not instruction. If you dozed off a bit, suddenly in your experience, I will disappear, for sure. Everybody around you will disappear, and you will also disappear, isn't it so? You fell asleep for a moment, the world disappeared and you also disappeared. Everything is going on, but in your experience, everything is gone. Simply because the 5 sense organs have shut down. So these 5 sense organs are the basis of your experience right now, and they're essentially outward bound. You can see what is around you. You can't roll your eyeballs inward and scan yourself. You can hear that. So much activity in this body, you cannot hear that. Even something as small as an ant crawls upon this, you can feel it. So much blood flowing, can you feel it? In the very nature of things, your sense organs are outward bound. But the basis of your experience, the seat of your experience, the source of your experience is within you. Right now, do you see me, sir? Do you see me? Where am I? Tell me. You must point it out. Where am I? Ah, you got it wrong. You know I'm a mystic. See, right now this light is falling upon me, reflecting, going through your lenses, inverted image in the retina. Don't you know the whole story? Where do you see me right now? Where do you see me? Within you, isn't it? Where do you hear me right now? Within you. Where have you seen the whole world? Within you. Have you ever experienced anything outside of yourself? The light and darkness has happened within you. Your joy and misery happen within you. Your agony and ecstasy can only happen within you. You have never experienced anything outside of yourself. Your pain and pleasure has happened within you, isn't it so? So your whole experience is within, but your five sense organs are outward bound. So, if you have to turn this inward a little bit, if you have to have an inner faculty to focus on the inward nature of who you are, it takes a different level of focus. Everything, these five sense organs are very essential for your survival, so they get turned on when you're born. But if you want to do anything beyond survival, it takes a little bit of striving, otherwise it will not come to you, isn't it? Anything beyond survival, it takes a bit of striving, otherwise it won't happen. So this inner striving has not happened, that's all. I would say, if you are willing to give 28 to 30 hours of focused time, we can turn on a different level of perception which is very inward. That's all it takes. 28 to 30 hours of committed, focused time. We usually format this in 3 days, 4 days according to people's convenience, but essentially that's how much time it takes for you to have a simple mechanism to activate a perception which is not outward, which is inward. Once you know what is happening within you, once you are conscious of how it is functioning within you, I'm sure you will create pleasantness for yourself. I trust you on that.
I'm Murad, studying here at Alcoa School of Public Policy. I was just wondering about one concept that you mentioned, that the body and mind get accumulated over time and they are acquired, so they are essentially different from who we are. And I wanted sort of this to compare with the saying of Descartes that's the cogito ergo sum, meaning I think, therefore I am, which is human being is a thinker as such. And I was wondering how the mind would be different from who we are. And you also said that we are life. Could you cast some light on that? Thank you.
See, Descartes said, I think, so I am or I exist. I'm asking you, okay? From your own intelligence, you tell me. Is it because you exist, you can think, or because you can think, you exist? Please tell me, what is true for you? Because you exist, you can think, or because you think you exist? Oh, because you exist, you can think, isn't it so? Right now your thought process has become so compulsive. It's a mental diarrhea. It's on all the time. So you think it's a non-stop thing, it is not so. If I sit in one place, if I shut myself up and sit, 4 days, 5 days, I don't have a single thought in my mind. Because thought is an activity, isn't it? Any activity, if you wish, it must happen. If you do not wish, it should not happen, isn't it so? If you're in a compulsive state of activity and you think that's your nature, that's a sad thing. You tell me, when you were born, were you of the same size as you are right now? No. Slowly you gathered this. What you call as my body is actually just a heap of food that you've eaten, isn't it so? Not a pleasant way to describe you, but it is just a heap of food that you've eaten or a piece of this planet, isn't it? Yes or no? Your body is an accumulation, is that so? Is that so? The content of your mind is also an accumulation, is that so? So all I asked you was, what you accumulate, it can be yours, I'm not disputing it as yet, but it cannot be you. It's like this, I'm sitting here right now and I suddenly pick up this glass and say, this is my glass. Then you'll think, okay, Sadhguru has a problem, but it's okay, let's listen. People say he is wise, let's listen. After some time, I say, this is me. Then you'll say, let's go. Yes or no? Because now this is a serious problem. This is my glass itself is a problem. Now if I say this is me, this is a serious problem. You don't want to be here. The food appeared on your plate, you said, this is my food. You ate it and now you say it's me. This is a very serious problem. You need to address it. I didn't create this problem. You've been living with this problem for a long time. I feel it's time you resolve this. If you don't resolve this one problem, you're an endless problem. If you resolve this one problem, there is no other problem in life. There is only one problem in life, that's you. If you solve this, then there is no other problem, just situations. Some we can handle, some we cannot handle, that's all.
The coming year is a historic event in many ways. The United Nations has declared the World International Yoga Day over 15,000 years ago. Since Adiyogi, many things have happened in terms of propagating yoga, in terms of reaching out. Many administrations in the form of kings took to yoga. For the first time, the head of a major nation on the planet is talking about yoga in public, in international fora.
And I invite him to address the assembly, Mr. Prime Minister.
योग केवल व्यायाम भर न होकर अपने आप से तथा विश्व व प्रकृति के साथ तादात्म्य को प्राप्त करने का माध्यम है।
This could be a kind of a foundation stone to make scientific approach to the inner well-being of the human being, a worldwide thing. That if you want to be well, you don't have to seek heaven's help, you can turn inward and fix it. This is the message when you say there is a International Yoga Day, this is what it means. The world is beginning to accept human well-being is not in heaven, it's within us. It's a tremendous step for the world, and for the first time, 177 countries get together to pass a resolution. Never before in the history of United Nations, 177 countries have voted for anything.
I want you to understand, this has lived for over 15,000 years without any kind of one organization pushing it or forcing it, simply because of its efficacy, because it works, it's lived. Today, nearly 2 billion people on the planet are doing some form of yoga. I'm not happy with that. I want the 7.2 billion people to do some form of yoga because
in the last 100 years, we've ripped the planet apart, but we are nowhere near well-being. If human well-being has to happen, the only and only way is one has to turn inward, there is really no other way. Because pain and pleasure happens from within you, joy and misery happens from within you. The very light and darkness happens within you. The only space where you generate experience is within. If you don't turn inward, fixing your well-being on this planet is out of question.
today we have the necessary resource, capability and technology to address every human problem on the planet. Never before was this possible. Only thing that's missing is an inclusive consciousness of human beings. And this is what yoga can do, beyond religion, beyond belief systems, beyond caste, creed, race, nationality. People can experience a deep sense of unity within themselves, which is what the world needs. This is a momentous step that humanity is taking. It is time the world turns inward for their well-being, not up, not out, in. In is the only way out. If you want well-being, in is the only way out.
En masse, people all over the world took to their mat, marking the first ever International Day of Yoga. More than 35,000 gathered in New Delhi for the event.
Isha Foundation also stepped forward to help reach yoga in a massive way. No less than 35,600 Isha teachers taught Upa Yoga classes in over 1 lakh locations around the planet to bring the true wealth of yoga to people everywhere. Over 2 million across the globe took time out to become a part of Yoga Day.
Today we heard Sadhguru speaking. It's a very enriching experience.
People from different cultures, ethnicities and religious backgrounds created a global wave.
I just did one of the yoga classes. It was really good. The videos were really easy to follow.
It is good. There is having a reminder at least once a year for people that there is something else to life.
June 21st, International Day of Yoga, has become a day to remember.
Great experience for everyone.
Yeah, it was my first time here. Definitely really good stuff, really good stuff. Thank you very much.
Yesterday only I learned it first time. Noticed that it helped me a lot.
Even 35,000 feet up in the air, people were getting high on yoga.
We traveled to look at the flight, this yoga by the flight by Isha Foundation. Very effective.
The internet helped us reach even more. Over 7.5 million joined us as we released special content, 5-minute practices, and even a yoga app. The inspiration behind this whole effort was Sadhguru, a profound yogi and mystic of our times. And with the support of the media, Sadhguru's wisdom on yoga reached many more.
Sadhguru, he runs the Isha Foundation, which is an international yoga foundation which has trained about 30 million people.
Every individual should be able to hold the tools of transformation and well-being in their own hands. This message going across in the form of International Yoga Day is truly historic. This is a true empowerment to humanity. I hope every one of us will stand up to this occasion and fulfill this great responsibility that's been placed in our hands, the privilege of being able to raise human consciousness, the privilege of being able to make a huge difference in the world. Thank you very much.
Dhyanalinga is a powerful and unique energy form that offers the possibility to experience life in its totality, the dream of many enlightened beings. Dhyanalinga was consecrated by Sadhguru after 3 years of intense pran pratishtha. The energies of all the 7 chakras are raised to the peak and locked to prevent dissipation over time. Just sitting silently for a few minutes within the sphere of Dhyanalinga is enough to make even those unaware of meditation experience a state of deep meditativeness.
A slightly more difficult subject for us, I'm sure not for you, honestly.
egos, because this is something that we deal with every day in the corporate world. You have egos across colleagues. You build, organization structures. I call them cages because very quickly it is like you are in your cage and you're protecting your cage and you don't want anybody to come anywhere near it, and so on and so forth. How does one deal with the egos? Or maybe a larger question, how does this whole thing arise and how do you, where does this conclude?
You want a business answer or a spiritual answer?
No, I want a spiritual answer. Business answer we try in our own crude way, but I think we now have to try from your eyes, how is this handled?
See, a lot of people have taken on this mode. Whenever they do something nasty, they would like to blame it on you, but you are not willing to take it. So they blame it on Mr. Ego. Where is this Mr. Ego? He only comes in when you're nasty. When you're beautiful, when you're joyful, when you're loving, when you're wonderful, Mr. Ego is absent. Only when you're nasty, you want to put it on somebody else because you haven't found anybody else, you have invented one Mr. Ego. There's no such thing. It is just that human beings are right now in a condition where sometimes they're pleasant, sometimes they're unpleasant, sometimes joyful, sometimes miserable, sometimes wonderful, sometimes horrific. This is what they are. Is there anybody here who is 24 hours good? Oscillating. This moment you're wonderful, next moment you're nasty, isn't it? So, because of this volatile inner nature, because it's not established, in the yoga we say, yoga saha kuru karmani, first establish in your yoga, then act. That's not been done. First is action. When your first action, this is what happens. Because you're unsettled, you're going from pleasantness to unpleasantness just about any time with smallest instigation, you have invented Mr. Ego. See, if you say, me and my ego reside within this body, what it means is, there are two of you. If there are two of you, that means you're either schizophrenic or you're possessed. You need either a psychiatrist or an exorcist.
You're not sure what is the problem.
So there are no two people. There is only one person here. You are an individual. If you are an individual, what it means is the very word individual comes from the word indivisible. That means you cannot be further divided. If you are an individual, you understand that I am sometimes so nice, sometimes so horrible. If you just realize this, would you want to be horrible? You will not want to be horrible. But this one thing they're dodging by inventing Mr. Ego. When people come and ask me, Sadhguru, what to do with my ego? Give him to me, I'll kill him right now. Where is he? No, he comes once in a way. Whenever you want to pass the buck to somebody, he's always there ready. Instead of that, some people don't go through all that. If they become little religious and if they think they're spiritual, what they will do is, they will give up their ego and they find God. All the nasty things that they do, they say it's God's will. They're taking instructions from Him, so you can't argue. People have waged wars, they've done horrible things to each other, the nastiest possible things they have done to each other because they were taking instructions from God. Others are taking instructions from a local guy, which is Mr. Ego.
Sadhguru, I think in the corporate world, we have to do something painful a lot of times. Build businesses and then destruct businesses. And Jack Welch was probably one of the masters. He said that if you're not number one or two in any business line that we are going to cut you out. I think he was a brave leader and built a great company. Not all leaders find it easy to nurture something. And in your phrase, you say nurture and butcher. We may not use that phrase, but it's exactly what we have to do, but we fail at it. I want your views on this.
I think on some of my books, I think one of the quotes that they have put, I think they printed, I don't know if they're still using it, at one time they were using it.
I said a guru is a butcher. And a very difficult butcher because he has to lovingly nourish something and then when it's ripe, he has to slaughter it. So this is a thankless job because you nurture something, when it's ripe, you have to cut it open. So if corporate leaders are doing it, well, they're very close to me. But I think they're not doing it. They're getting very attached to what they nourish and they don't do it when they have to do it. That is because they have too much of themselves in what they do. See, the beauty of action, any action that we perform in the world, the beauty, the pleasure and the joy of action, a human being will know only when he has no need for activity. If I sit here like this with my eyes closed, I can sit here till I fall dead. I won't have any interest, it doesn't matter what drama is happening, I won't open my eyes if I have to, if I don't have to. But at the same time, right now I'm on 20 hours a day, 365 days I'm on and on, because something needs to be done. So are you performing action because it's needed to the situation in which you exist? Because the action is always about the situation, but right now that's not how it is with most people. The action is about them. They are trying to make themselves something with action. This is the wrong way to approach, you're putting the cart before the horse. See, your action is actually an expression of who you are. Instead of that, people are trying to perform action and become something. You first become something and then you act in the world, these problems will not exist. What is needed, you will simply do. You will neither call it nurturing or butchering or anything, you will simply do what is needed. Right now, so many unnecessary things human beings are doing on this planet because it's about them, it's not about the situation in which they exist.
So very right. I think in the corporate context, it's probably the most difficult thing for most people to do. They probably develop some attachment which they cannot let go. And,
they're like grandmothers.
Like grandmothers. They're like grandmothers, so…
They were ready to die, but once the grandchild comes, they don't want to die.
It's wonderful. Wonderful. Again, in the corporate context, you learn, you devote and you work. My interpretation of Gyan, Bhakti, Karma. Is that right, or we need to sequence it differently in a corporate context, or is there something else that we need to understand from these three words, because they hold a lot of importance in a whole lot of things that you have actually talked about. And I'm trying to seek how this could be used in a corporate context.
So this is relevant for any context, whether you're a corporate leader or a political leader or a spiritual leader or whatever, or you're just one little thing you have started, you're not a leader of anything, it doesn't matter who you are, for everybody it's relevant in the sense, you can only work with what you have. You cannot work with something that you do not have. You can work towards something that you do not have, but you cannot work with what you do not have. Am I clear? We can work towards something that we do not have, but we cannot work with what we do not have. We can only work with what we have. So right now when I say what we have, the only things that you have as a human being right now is your body, your mind, your emotion and your energies. These are only four things you have. Rest is all imagination. Imagination helps to sleep well tonight, You're tensed up because of whatever is happening in the corporate world or in the share market or whatever else, then you say, this is all God's will. You can sleep well, it's a good tranquilizer. When Marx said it is the opium of the masses, people took it as something negative. It is not a negative thing. Lot of people are able to sleep only because they believe in God, otherwise they wouldn't be able to sleep. This is a very inexpensive psychiatry, you understand, really. If you go to the modern psychiatrist, he can take only one client at a time and he needs furniture. This is an inexpensive psychiatry. Wherever you are, whichever part of the world, nobody is around you, you say, God is with me, you can sleep well tonight. So, without this, most minds would break. It will take an extremely clear mind to exist here without the help of an outer agency. All others need it. So I don't wish to destroy that support for anybody, but you must decide, are you looking for solace in your life or are you looking for a solution in your life? If you're looking at solutions, there is another way to approach. If you're looking for solace, just believing something always helps. So when you are a leader, I believe, it's eroding these days looking at many leaders, but when somebody says he's a leader, I believe he's a solution for millions of people who are not able to find a solution by themselves for whatever reasons. Yes? That's what a leader is supposed to be. But right now, in this country, you can become a leader if you create a problem. You don't have to find any solutions. Please don't take my advice, nobody should take my advice because you're Mumbaikars, I'm afraid of you. See, if you want to become a leader, by tomorrow morning you want to be a recognized leader, by midday, by the time the midday paper comes, by 12 o'clock tomorrow, you want to be a recognized leader in Mumbai, just, hire one segment, you don't need the whole hall. One segment of these people, maybe on 100 people, go, half of you block one main artery, ceiling. Why? It's easy to block. You block the ceiling and block one important rail route. By midday tomorrow, by the time midday comes out, you will be a leader in Mumbai. You build 10 ceilings, you will not be a leader in this country. You just block one or you break one instant. So this is something that has to change in the nation's consciousness, that people who create problems, we are identifying them as leaders. This is a hangover from the Satyagraha days of Mahatma Gandhi. But Mahatma Gandhi was putting spanner in the works for an occupation force. Every day he will call for non-cooperation, Satyagraha, he will fast and putting spanner in the works essentially. Their industry, their business, if it flourishes too much, he will put spanner in the works so that there is an impetus for them to leave, so that it's not too lucrative for them to stay forever. That's understandable, it was fantastic technology, without killing people, without fighting a war, an effective way of doing it, and he did it successfully, that's great. But that hangover is not gone in us today. Even today, I see chief ministers who are fighting for their right to call for a bandh. Stopping the nation is one kind of technology, making it happen is another kind of technology. But there is going to be respite for us because this whole leadership business, if you look at it, say a few hundred years ago, the most dominant leadership on the planet was always religious leadership. Then slowly transited into the hands of military leadership. From there, in the last 150 years, gradually it moved into the hands of democratic leadership. And now, in the last 2 decades, and particularly in the coming 2 decades, you will see leadership will largely move into the hands of economic leaders, business leaders. They will dominate, already it's beginning to happen. So we have moved from the shackles of religious dogma to the tyranny of military leadership, to the confoundedness of democratic leadership. Now will the business leadership deliver? That's a question.
Very good question, and that leads me to the next question, Sadhguru. That is, and I know you have very interesting views on it, so greed. I'm talking of in the corporate context, and we'll explore many hues as we go along of greed, but I'm sure we would all very curious to hear your views.
See, once we have chosen, there was a time about 20 years ago, 25 years ago, when India was vouching that we are a socialist country. Socialism is a watered-down version of communism. When you don't have the courage to be a communist, you become a socialist. which has always been one of the serious problems with our nation, that we don't have the courage to say who we are, what do we intend. We'll always beat about the bush, we always beat about the bush, which leaves everybody in confusion, because nobody knows where we want to go. So, communism as an idea is a fantastic idea. Karl Marx might have known a lot about economics, but he knows very little about human beings. He predicted that the richest nations in the world will become communist. People will share their wealth with each other, and how wonderful it's going to be the world. It's a fantastic dream. It's a beautiful dream. It's one of the best dreams the world has dreamed, that everybody will be equal, everybody will have everything, nobody has to… it's by our need, not by our greed. You may produce $1 billion, I may produce nothing, but you are willing to share with me. There's a very beautiful story, incident which happened when Mark Twain visited. He was so excited. Wow, rich are going to share their wealth with the poor and everybody is going to be equal opportunity for everyone. This is fantastic. Everybody wanted to go. Lots of thinkers and authors from America traveled to Russia because they were so excited. This is it, the world is going to change. So Mark Twain was walking in a country road. A country Russian gentleman was walking in front of him with two hens under his arms. He ran up to him, caught up, and he said, "Comrade, are you really a communist?" He said, "Yes, I am a party member." He said, "Is it true that if you have 2 bungalows, you will give away one to your comrade?" "Of course. If I have 2 bungalows, I will give away one to my comrade. I am a party member, I'm an office bearer." "If you have 2 carriages, will you give away one to somebody who needs it?" "Of course, I am a party member, I am the president in my village. I have to and I will." "You have 2 hens, will you give away one of them?" "What the hell, that's all I have." So people wanted to give away what they don't have. So when the poorest of the poor on the planet started talking about communism, communism became ugly. It's such a great idea. If the rich and the wealthy and the capable had taken it, world would have become an ashram. Yes, it would have been a perfect spiritual setting, really, if the rich had taken it. Now the poor took up the idea. What they could not earn, they want to take it by beating. Banditry became a philosophy. What should have been a fantastic process of sharing and giving and an embrace of humanity turned into an ugly idea. Most horrific things were done. During Joseph Stalin's time, they say over 27 million Russians died. This is 3 times the number that died in World War II. That many people, Russian people, died because the poor are trying to share something that they don't have. If the rich had shared, what a wonderful world it would have been. And the poorest of the poor talking about communism made it ugly. If the richest and the most capable on the planet had spoken about communism, it would have been the greatest idea. So we gave up that idea and now we chose capitalism. Somebody very prominent in the world declared capitalism is dead, So, I was with him recently and he was talking, see, they printed like these headlines that I said capitalism is dead. Why it was called capitalism is because capital was only with certain people at that time. Now you have come ICICI Bank, I can also have capital. Indeed. Somebody else can also have capital. This was not the reality of the world 100 years ago. Only a few people on the planet were capable of capital. Nobody else had capital. So it became titled as capitalism. Now we are calling it market economy, driven by the market. Market means profit. No profit, you shouldn't talk about a marketplace. And when you have set up such a system, there is no room, in your vocabulary there's no room for the word greed. If you use the word greed, what it means is you're operating market economy with communism going around in your head. Only if you're a communist, you can talk about greed. If you're market economy, don't talk about greed, talk about better laws. If somebody is making $1 billion per day, let's tax him. 900 million, you can tax him and that will be distributed anyway. But enough to give him incentive to go on, not to take away his spirit. So this is how capitalism is managed. Here you don't talk about this whole corporate social responsibility, I think it's funny. It is just an eyewash. Instead of that, the government, if the administration, if it has the necessary sense, you can bring the right kind of policies where businesses can grow unbridled, but it will naturally benefit the rest of the society. This can be done with simple laws, taxation and other kinds of laws. Business laws can do this. There is no need to talk about service, there is no need to talk about greed. Everybody can live with dignity because if you are the receiving end of the service, you lose your dignity. If you are at the giving end of the service, you go to heaven, both are wrong.
What I hear Sadhguru saying is profit is a good motive, and if you call it greed, that greed is good. And
greed is
I
good.
think that is something that, profit is something that
No, if you look at the definition of greed, what is greed? See, for somebody who is walking to his workplace or his home, somebody who rides a bicycle and refuses to take him on the bicycle is greedy man. Somebody who's riding a bicycle sees a man driving a Maruti car and he thinks he's greedy. Just single man driving a Maruti car, he could take me, his family and my family in the Maruti car because Indians are able to squeeze, you know. A man who's driving a Maruti car, when a Mercedes or a BMW whizzes past him, he says vulgarity of greed. A man who's driving BMW looks at a man who's driving a Bugatti and he thinks that is greed. So who is to set this definition for what is greed? I'm saying once you have chosen market economy, there is no room for that vocabulary in your life. You understand greed is the driving force. Now, it is for the laws to manage the greed so that your greed benefits everybody else. In African lore, there is a saying, when the lion feeds, everybody else gets fed. So if you're a lion, you have a big capability, when you feed, it is the laws which should make it in such a way, if you make profit, everybody should live well. Instead of talking about greed and service and corporate social responsibility, I don't know why they're deviating themselves into all this
So stay focused on maximizing profitability.
Yes.
Tax appropriately and let everyone…
The idea that we need to protect this planet itself is a convoluted idea because it is not because of us that the planet is there, it is because of the planet we are there. Even to think me and the planet is a completely wrong notion because what you call as myself, the physical presence of who you are, is just an outcrop of this planet. Whatever you experience as a part of yourself, with that nobody has to tell you, please take care of this. Anyway, you will take care of it. The planet is for all of us and we cannot exist here by ourselves. Our existence here is not because of our economic activity. Right now we are made to believe it is because of the percentages of growth that's happening in this country you will live well. No, we will live well here if everything is green, beautiful, water is flowing, air is pure, we will live well here. This idea has to go into every human being's mind, into every citizen's mind, into every child's mind. You must always be conscious of the life other than human life. Most people are not even conscious of the human beings, so I'm reminding you, you must be conscious of everything that is alive. A tree, a plant, a blade of grass, a grasshopper hopping, you must be alive to everything. Constantly the air around us is entering us and coming out of us, and this is the basis of our life. What you exhale, the trees are inhaling. What the trees exhale, you are inhaling. There's a constant transaction going on. If we stop this process of breath for 1 minute,
We understand that without transacting with the air around us, we cannot live for a moment. Similarly, on the level of water and on the level of earth, this transaction is going on. So how we keep the atmospheres around us, the water bodies around us, will determine the nature and the quality of our life.
Isha Life is a unique, holistic approach to health that integrates the best of different medical systems, combining the wisdom of India's ancient sciences with the expertise of modern medicine. Isha Life helps you restore and revitalize your system.
Unfortunately, this happened in the world, that people have become committed to systems. They're not committed to health. If you go to allopathy, they'll do only that. If you go to Ayurveda, they say this is the only way. These various systems of medicine have acquired enormous amount of capability and wisdom. I think it's a crime to operate them separately and think this is my way. It's unfortunate that medical institutions across the world have not made this effort to integrate all the knowledge, all the wisdom that we have about human health. So this is an effort to create a model where the commitment is to health.
Isha Life's offerings include preventative health care, programs for pregnancy, weight loss, diabetes, joint and musculoskeletal disorders, as well as programs for children. Designed with Sadhguru's guidance, the programs involve therapy, traditional Indian medicines, and specialized advice on diet that fits easily into your daily life. Our doctors are highly qualified in allopathy, and our Vaidyas are trained in Ayurveda, Siddha, and Hatha Yoga. Their training also includes powerful yogic methods and processes to enhance their perception and diagnostic abilities.
ஈஷா லைஃப்பில் இன்டர்கேட்டிவ் அப்ரோச்சில் எல்லா டாக்டர்ஸையும் ஒரே இடத்துல பேஷண்ட்ஸால் பார்க்க முடியுது. இங்கே தெரப்பீஸில் நாங்கள் யூஸ் பண்ணுற ஆயில்லாம் ஆத்தென்டிக் ஆயில்ஸ் யூஸ் பண்ணுறதுனால நல்ல ரெக்கவரி கிடைக்குது அவங்களுக்கு. மெடிசன்ஸ் மட்டும் இல்லாமல் டயட் அட்வைஸ் அண்ட் லைஃப் ஸ்டைல் மாடிஃபிகேஷன் சொல்கிறோம். அதை எங்கள் கிட்ட கற்றுக்கிட்டு பேஷண்ட் அதை இம்ப்ளிமெண்ட் பண்ணி ரொம்ப ஸ்பீடாக ரெக்கவர் ஆகிறத நாங்கள் பார்த்துட்ருக்கோம்.
At Isha Life, I find that my patients need lesser amount of painkillers or less amount of sleep medications, as after coming here, after adopting this holistic system, patients are able to feel the improvement in the quality of their living. They're able to sleep better, conduct their life better.
Every aspect of this energized space is crafted to move an individual towards health, joy, and a peaceful state of being. Isha Life, come, restore and rejuvenate yourself.
For the corporate world, a slightly more difficult question, integrity, because that is something that is today seen as at a premium. Exploring this whole issue of integrity a little more, the corporate world you come across what term as shades of grey. Are these artificial, like the ego, or are they real? and what drives them, and how do you actually put them to rest? Because this is surfacing more and more, and the excuse is, well, it was grey, so I chose a particular path.
See, in human life, whether it's personal life or corporate, work life or social life, you cannot eliminate the grey. But the grey areas become very dominant in a society where the laws are not crystal clear. For the grey areas to be reduced, we must simplify the laws, we must make the laws in such a way that everybody can understand the law. Only then it can be implemented. You are in the highest level of banking. Do you really believe you understand all the laws that are there in banking in India? Let me ask, I know you don't. Because…
You said it.
Because nobody can understand this. It is such a confusing nonsense that you leave so much grey area. Now the only thing you can trade
Take the path
No,
which you
no,
think
what
is
I'm saying
appropriate.
what I'm saying is we are leaving the lawmaking, as I said, we are in the transition where economic leadership is going to become more important in the coming years. It is time that economic leaders, significant leaders like you, take this step that you have a role in the formation of economic things in the country. Right now, political leaders who have no clue about what it is are trying to do it. You look at the budget, it's a political statement, it has no economic consequence, it's a sad thing. A booming economy is being systematically dismantled. Being dismantled, it's not necessarily because they intend to do it, simply because you're ham-handed, you don't understand what it is about. Economic leaders must take part in making the economic laws. Now, the reason why this is not allowed is business and
And you have used a phrase, coming, going and staying. We are seeing that happen in the corporate world with all the constituents or major constituents or people. The approach is you come and you think of going even before you come. And staying is a little further away from the mind.
even marriages are becoming…
So, your perspectives, Sadhguru.
You see, because as we looked at a corporation as a whole also is thinking in terms of short-term benefits. There is no long-term commitment to what they want to create. Individual human beings also taking the same attitude. No human being can create anything truly wonderful if he is not absolutely devoted towards what he wants to do. Whether it's sports or economics, business, what you're doing, the consequence of your work is not even an issue for you. What you're doing is the main issue for you. Now, whether you stay in this company, that company is not the problem, but you want to create this is the problem. If you have that focus, then where you are doesn't matter. Trustful position in any organization, Without people around you trusting you, without people around you looking up to you, nobody is going to achieve anything significant. Only they may get better salary. If somebody gives them few thousand rupees more somewhere else, they keep shifting, shifting, shifting. To be leaders, it's very important. The question is not about what is the consequence of your work. The question is about, are you committed to creating whatever is valuable for you? Whatever you think is truly valuable in the area of work that you're doing, are you committed to this? Without this commitment and devotion to what a 100 rupee increment will mean a lot to you, but after some time, it is not something that even concerns you. What you're creating, what you're doing, what the situation allows you to do, whether you can find expression to your talent or not is the important thing. Instead of creating that space, if every 2 years you're shifting here and there, you lose
life. You try to say, I'm doing this for the greater good. And people don't try to probably see where to draw the line. And for example, would you lie in the greater good sort of situation?
I think most people already know it. I came on the television, somebody asked me, Sadhguru, would you lie? When would you lie or something like that? I said, whenever necessary. So they went on playing because the definition of what is a lie has to be established within you. Now, you are trying to create something for everybody's well-being. The thing is to make it happen. You are going by verbal realities. What is true and what is not the thing. In reality… So right now let me ask a simple question to all the audience.
And that's a very, very, very perceptive thing.
Because the question is, are you ruled by morality or are you ruled by your consciousness of inclusiveness? That's a big question. Are you existing here as a piece of life or are you existing here as psychological structures of morality? I'm here as a piece of life. My life reverberates with every other life.
And clearly identify, evaluate and then take a view on.
I wouldn't say greater good or lesser good. Is your action inclusive or exclusive? That's all the question is. Inclusive means you're trying to take everything inward, exclusive isn't it? See, nobody has to tell you, nobody has to teach any human being, do not cut up your child, do not cut up your own little finger. No such thing is needed because what is a part of you, with that you are safe. What you think is not yours, that is where the problem is, isn't it? If you see everything as a part of yourself, then whatever is needed, you do.
That was very well put. In fact, it drove home the point so well, and you used such an example where nobody felt guilty in taking a view. Attack and or do something. We need to torture him. Will you torture him or not? Now, I think the example that you used brought out the morality of it very clearly. That is it an inclusive act or is it not an inclusive act? And you take a view based on that.
No, we have found better solutions.
Still in the corporate world. One big issue that is coming up now is work-life balance. And the young Indian is today seized of this question, as indeed young people everywhere in the world.
In United States, it's so strictly done. Friday morning, they're already in their beach shorts in the office. Inside their trousers, they got beach shorts. When they come out of the parking lot, they're pulling it out. Because it's too stark. That is mainly because you're suffering your work. If you are enjoying your work, that distinction wouldn't be so stark. If you went to your work like you're going there to have a love affair, if you are doing what you really care to do in your life, if you're constantly